All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our monthly Gratituesday webinar sponsored by Huntington National Bank. My name is Nicole Hankwitz, and I am the Major Gift Officer at the McLaren Greater Lansing Foundation. And the purpose of these webinars is to take a deep look into what McLaren is doing to transform the care in our community and the role that the foundation plays in that transformation. One major component to our new hospital is the collaboration with Michigan State University. You know, our new campus will be located just south of MSU on land that we obtained from MSU Foundation. We have a number of partnerships with them that will bring the best possible care to our community. And we continue to train MSU residents at McLaren. One exciting thing for the foundation is we're lucky enough to have a great relationship with MSU Athletics. And I wanted to just go over a few housekeeping things before we get started. So please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box. I will keep track of those questions and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. And if you want more information about our events or our campaign for care, please visit our website at mglcampaignforcare.com. This webinar is also being recorded and we will share it on our social media accounts. You will also receive an email with the recording in case you want to share with somebody who may be interested in learning more about the foundation or our campaign for care. Now, as a two-time Spartan alumni, I am so excited to introduce our foundation vice president, Lynn Griffor, and our MSU athletic director, Bill Beekman.
Thank you, Nicole. And thank you, Bill, for being with us today. I am so excited to talk to you about MSU athletics, and really just about you and your long career here at East Lansing. So I understand you have been with MSU for over 30 years. Can you tell us a little bit about your career journey and kind of some of the things that you've done, some of the highlights?
Sure. Well, first, thanks so much, Lynn, for having me. It's great to partner with McLaren and to work with you and your team and your so many wonderful physicians. And to those that are watching, I apologize. I had a little bit of a technical glitch on my end, and so my video isn't as good as I would like. But thank you all for joining. So yes, I've been at Michigan State for a very, very long time. I started out in the medical schools, which is where I first came in contact with colleagues at our local hospitals and hospitals around the state, and spent about 10 years in the medical schools, culminating in expanding the College of Human Medicine to Grand Rapids and that work, and then went over to work in the provost's office, became the executive director of the MSU Alumni Association for a number of years, and then moved into the president's office where I was the vice president and secretary of the board of trustees. And in that vice presidential role, renewed much of my work in healthcare and was one of the point people on the MSU side of the negotiating team that led to the sale of the foundation property to McLaren to build the new hospital, and some of the partnerships that have occurred along the way. And so about 3 years ago, I was asked to come over to athletics, where I've been for that period of time. I've just announced that I'm going to be going back to the administration and serving as vice president for strategic initiatives, something I'm very excited about, and hopefully an opportunity to rekindle some of those healthcare relationships and continue to work with the McLaren family and other hospitals around the state.
Wonderful. And you know, our new hospital on the new campus near MSU is going to be opening in just several months from now, which is hard to believe. It's been a long time coming. There were probably hundreds and hundreds of people involved, but you were one of the key individuals to kind of bring Michigan State and McLaren together. And I can only imagine trying to work between a Big Ten university and a huge healthcare system like McLaren must have been interesting, but probably challenging as well. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Well, it was interesting because you had the university that, of course, has a vested interest in healthcare in the community, not only as a provider of healthcare, but as an employer of many, many physicians in the community. And then, of course, the McLaren system with its commitment to healthcare in Lansing, and then the MSU Foundation, which is a separate corporation that actually owned the property. And so there was a lot of conversation about how it all would work. And of course, what sounds like a good idea at the outset, can easily get mired in the millions of sort of devils in the details kinds of things. But I remember that we'd been meeting for many months, and we got to the point where we sort of decided that it was either going to work or it wasn't. And so me and several of my colleagues scheduled a day over at the president's house at Cole's house on campus. And Greg Lane, Greg Dobis, and several of their colleagues joined us. And we sort of decided, kind of like union negotiations, we were sort of going to sit there until the deal was done. And after I think 3 or 4 hours, we'd really hammered out all of the key points of what the university needed, what the foundation needed, what McLaren needed, and it was a great joy to shake hands and walk away from the table knowing that we were going to make healthcare in our community so dramatically better. And of course that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And then there was a due diligence period, and we got through that with good shape. And then it was so exciting to see McLaren break ground, and of course to see the hospital go up. And there are so many projects you work on when you're part of a big organization that sometimes tend not to go anywhere, and you have high hopes. And so this was just so important to our community, to people like me that grew up in Lansing and have lived here my whole life, and plan on living here my whole life, and you want that healthcare in your community to really be exceptional. And so it was for me a great honor to be part of making that happen.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's so great about this, the new hospital campus and the partnerships, are the sense of pride that all parties feel in what we're doing and how we're impacting our community. I know one of the partnerships that, again, both sides feel so proud of is Spartan Radiology, which will have a huge impact on the way that care is delivered here in the greater Lansing area. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was really one of the key drivers that we initially had planned on, was a great partnership in radiology. And MSU Radiology had been a very sort of unique beast insofar as most medical, as a starting point, most medical schools really are tied to a hospital that sort of sits on campus. And when the MSU medical schools were founded, both the MD and the DO programs, they were really community based. And so the hospital partnerships were partnerships in communities around the state of Michigan. But in radiology, we were a little unique in that we had much of the equipment that you typically find in a hospital, we had right here on campus. So starting with CTs, and then going to MRI, and eventually PET, and then to the point where we had our own pharmacy on campus with a cyclotron to develop the isotopes for the PET. So all that right on our campus, which is extraordinarily unusual. And so our ability to take that equipment, that expertise and technology, and to marry that with McLaren, really, I think, provides an incredible resource for people in the community. It allows Michigan State to continue to have a great clinical presence in our community in radiology, along with the clinical work that McLaren has done for many years. And it just really takes the best of both worlds and gives us the opportunity to make something even better. And you think really about, in terms of radiology, it's so valuable to other things that we do. When we think about at Michigan State, our great sports medicine program, but much of sports medicine and orthopedic surgery is tied to understanding what was broken and how it was broken, so you know how to fix it. And of course, that starts with a film, and it starts with radiology. So you think about sports medicine as one example of something that really is tied to that radiology partnership. And so it's sort of, radiology is kind of the first ripple in the pond, but you can see other ripples continue to grow, sports medicine being one example of that. So I think that radiology is a good starting point. I know, although I've been in athletics for a number of years and haven't been as closely tied to other conversations, I know that other conversations are going on similar to the great start we had in radiology, and so I think that there certainly are great things on the horizon. But yes, it really all started on the clinical side with that radiology relationship.
Yeah. And I will say, unfortunately, I have been the firsthand knowledge of that partnership because my daughter tore her ACL recently, and she had her MRI at McLaren, and she went to MSU Sports Medicine, and then she had her surgery back at McLaren. So I've kind of navigated that path, and while I wish we had had to go there, it certainly did start with radiology, and she had a really great experience and great care all the way around.
Super, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So one of the other fun collaborations between the McLaren Foundation and MSU Athletics has been the support that we've received from coaches and student athletes for some of our events. We had Coach Tucker and his wife JoJo hosted our golf outing this past summer, which people just loved being able to meet him. Obviously, he's newer to the community, so that was a really great opportunity for people that golf in our outing to meet Coach Tucker, and he's just great fun. We have a Sparty coming to our McLaren Loves Lansing event, which is happening this Friday. And I'm still hopeful that we're going to have Sparty and some of the MSU Marching Band at the hospital's grand opening. So we're still working on that, but I think that would be a ton of fun.
That would be awesome. And yeah, there really is nothing to set the mood and the tone like the marching band. I'm so excited for our home opener on September 11th. And one of my great sort of special moments opening the season is hearing the band come into the tunnel, and that sort of opening sequence to me is a very special part of the start of football season. But yes, it's at MSU we're all really excited about that grand opening, and so to have Sparty there, hopefully the marching band will hopefully make that a little bit more special event. But it will be extraordinary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So obviously, no one's going to hold you to anything you say with this webinar because, as you know, the last 2 years at this point have been up and down. But what will athletics look like in the fall at MSU?
So what I end up telling people most of the time is if the game were played today,
Right.
because there's just so much variability in what's happening. But if the game were played today, we would follow the university protocols of requiring masks in indoor areas, and we define indoor as everything in the stadium tower, the concourse, the restrooms. Masks are not required, but encouraged in outdoor areas, which would include the bowl of the stadium. We are planning on having full parking and tailgating as we normally would. So we encourage people to come, enjoy the hopefully wonderful weather. Predictions so far that it will be nice, but of course it's still several weeks out.
Right.
But to hopefully come and enjoy a nice fall or late summer day, resume their tailgating traditions and come in for a great football game. So we've got special air cleaning equipment that we'll have in many of the bathrooms. We'll have hand sanitizing stations almost everywhere. And of course, we encourage people that I would personally encourage everyone to get vaccinated, and people that aren't feeling well to stay home. But we'll have masks indoors, masks optional outdoors, with a full opportunity for tailgating and parking as we normally would if the game were held today. And I think as we get closer, that's really our likely outcome. But it's just we've sort of seen enough happen to kind of never say never at the moment. But that's where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I know everyone's looking for answers, and any information is always useful. So thank you. So I'm curious, Bill, you do have a passion for working with McLaren, both in a professional and personal kind of situation. What has your personal experience with the hospital been?
Well, I happily have stayed out of the hospital. However, both of my, all three of my children were born at McLaren, and I will say now, I'm gonna. You may need to help me with this, but my daughter, who's now 22, was born at one hospital, and I believe my sons were at the other.
Okay.
So at some point in the past, I believe that service flipped from one place to the other, if I'm recalling correctly. But no, my wife very intentionally had our children born at McLaren, in large measure because we knew some of the nursing staff there, and just thought the world of them, and the service, the way that we and our children were treated was just sort of really second to none, and our third child had a few issues that kept him in for a couple days longer. And again, the care and compassion and treatment we received was just really as much as one could ask for. And so a very special experience for which Cindy and I will always be grateful. But yeah, we as I say, we knew a number of the nurses, and boy, they really took very special care of us, and that was that was very meaningful, and a great start to 3 young lives. Oh, Lynn, are you there? Lynn?
Uh-oh, it looks like we might have some technical difficulties.
Am I still there?
You're still there. I can see you.
All
So she only had one last question, so I'll jump in and just wrap things up for her, and then we can kind of go through some of the questions that were asked by those listening to us. So really the last thing that we wanted to ask is, what's next for you? I know you recently announced that you were going to step back and start something else, but I know you're staying with the camp with the MSU. So tell me what's next.
Well, I'm very excited to have the opportunity to move into the role of Vice President for Strategic Initiatives. And when I was Vice President and Secretary of the Board, my office was in the President's office, and I'll be going back to the President's office just about 20 foot down the hall from where I used to be. So, I will. It was bittersweet to come over to athletics because I so enjoyed the interaction with all of the deans and vice presidents, and athletics. It's really about athletics. And so it was a little bittersweet to come over, and yet I came to love and enjoy our student athletes and the incredible work that they do. And it'll, in sort of in many of the same ways, be bittersweet to go back. I'll miss the student athletes and that regular interaction, but will very much enjoy the opportunity to really help the larger university and make a difference in the direction of Michigan State University as a whole. So our Board of Trustees will be receiving a new strategic plan from the president and many of the faculty at the board's September meeting. And I will, one of my charges will be to help the president and his leadership team implement that strategic plan and think thoughtfully about how we move the university forward. So, to me, I'll miss athletics and the excitement that comes with some of the activities I've been involved in, but at the same time, it will be a great honor to spend time working with the greater university and helping move us in a positive direction, and hopefully getting back a little bit into the realm of healthcare where I spent so much of my career, and enjoy working with our great partners like Kirk and your team at McLaren.
Wonderful. Well, athletics, I'm sure we'll miss you, but we're excited that you're still going to be around, and you've been around with MSU for a long time. So thank you for everything. We truly appreciate it. I think Lynn is getting things back up. So if you hold on just 1 second, we'll wrap things up. Oh, nope. She's telling me just to keep going. All around technical difficulties. Well, thank you so much. We honestly can't thank you enough. You've been a huge advocate for McLaren, for our foundation. We're excited for, your next steps, and, hopefully we'll be there right with you and continue to grow and build on what we're doing.
Well, thank you. McLaren is an extraordinary partner. Early in my career, I, working with the dean, then at the time was Bill Abbott. I got to know the McLaren team at the old headquarters, where we were working on some projects related to the cancer center, and a team of us drove up to Flint, I think, every other week for about a year, and sat
Oh my gosh.
with Greg Dobus and Phil and other folks, and really sorted out how we were going to try and work through providing great cancer care. And so it was great fun to have sort of a second phase of that McLaren relationship about 6 years ago, working on the new hospital project. And I just couldn't be more excited to continue that work and see what incredible progress you all make.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We have a couple questions, so don't jump off quite yet. The first one is from your Okemos buddy, Scott Stewart, who also happens to be our board chair for the foundation. His question relates to the relationship between McLaren and MSU growing over the years. Specifically, what areas do you see the most opportunity for us to work together?
Well, as I said earlier, I think one great opportunity is in the world of sports medicine and orthopedics. A historic strength of McLaren and a strength of Michigan State, and as I said, I think that naturally evolves from the radiology relationship. But I think there are lots of other opportunities, and really, in some measure, the sky's the limit. I think that there are pockets of care that maybe we could build and strengthen in our community. And so obviously things like that might be a priority, but I really think across the board there are opportunities that we just need to think through where to find them and what makes the most sense going forward.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. That's exciting that we have that in our future as well. One last question I had for you, and this is kind of putting you on the spot, but do you have a favorite story from your time as athletic director? You've worked with all of the, obviously the athletes over the years, and, anything in particular stand out?
Well, I'll tell you one brief story that I think reflects on what it means to be a student athlete. And we used to have a sign up in the football building that said, "Champions are built on 1,000 invisible mornings."
Mhm.
And so often our men's basketball team, our football team get lots and lots of attention in the media, but so many of our other student athletes do not. And it was, I think, my first year as athletic director. We had a noon game, and it was just raining cats and dogs at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I had to run around to a bunch of tailgates and meet with donors, and it was just one of those days where there was no keeping dry. I was just going to be drenched. And one of our young golfers was a graduating senior, a woman by the name of Sarah Burnham. And I was sort of driving my golf cart across campus in a downpour, and I see this young person hauling a trash can. And I thought, is that Sarah? And so I called out, and it was her, one of our senior women golfers. And as it turned out, she was completing an internship for credit working with our facilities team. And her first assignment of the day was getting all these trash cans set up. Well, the week prior to this game, she had been down in North Carolina at LPGA Q School. She'd had an incredible week at Q School. She came back up north for the weekend, and then she had to go back to Q School the next week and play another, I think, 3 or 4 rounds to hopefully get her tour card. And so I'm sitting there knowing that she'd had a really great week, thinking to myself, oh crap, what's going to happen? Here's our star golfer who's going to get an LPGA tour card, and she's going to catch a cold working for the athletic department. So I said, Sarah, go home, get some rest, have some chicken noodle soup and get out of this rain. We need you healthy next week. So, oh, Mr. Beekman, I've got this job to do and I'm going to do it and we're going to take care of things and don't you worry about me. Well, I was worried about her and I was kind of terrified that on my watch she was going to catch a cold and blow this incredible opportunity. Well, as it turns out, she did her duties as assigned, went down to North Carolina, got her tour card. She's in her second year, in the middle of her second year on the LPGA tour, just doing very, very well. And but that grit and determination was to me just extraordinary. And I've never forgotten that. To Sarah's great embarrassment, I tell that story regularly. But she's just one of those young people that we really is so reflective of many of our student athletes in athletics. She just works tirelessly, does what she's asked to do, doesn't make excuses, just grinds it out, and as a result, she's on the LPGA tour and having great success. So I think that when you think about student athletes, it's easy to reflect on those that get the most notoriety. But I would encourage our listeners to get out to a wrestling match or a field hockey game, to watch the volleyball team, or so many of our other sports. The kids are absolutely wonderful, and it's a great family experience.
Wow, that's great. Well, I personally am very excited to take my oldest, who's 4 now, to a volleyball game because that was something I always loved to do when I was younger. So, well, thank you so much. I just want to quickly remind everybody who's listening that there is still time to purchase tickets for our McLaren Loves Lansing event coming up this Friday, August 27th at the Lansing Brewing Company. This is by far one of my favorite events that we do. We're going to have live music and food trucks. It will be outside and the weather's supposed to be hot, but beautiful. We also have a to-go option if that's something you're more comfortable with. And you can get more information on our website at mclaren.org/MLL for more information. Thank you again, Bill, for joining us and everyone for listening in to our Gratituesday webinar. I am excited to announce our September webinar will be with Dr. Michael McKenna, who is our Chief Medical Officer for McLaren Healthcare. We are going to talk to him about research going on at McLaren across the state and the many clinical trials that we are conducting. Our Lansing Foundation has partnered with McLaren Center for Research and Innovation to raise funds for our donors to support the important work McLaren is doing with patient-centered research and care. We'll see you on Tuesday, September 28th, and please don't forget to visit mglcampaignforcare.com for more information about how you can get involved, and be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. Thank you, everybody, and have a great afternoon.